I want to talk a little bit today about what change looks like. In Detroit, a city that's going through crisis, change looks like a ladder on a highway. I met a man who's part of a community group that has gathered together to make up for some of the deficits within that city. And they're literally planning a park, providing security, and they're painting infrastructure. He told me on weekends, they block off traffic and they set up ladders on highways and they're painting these overpasses. And he told me one time a police car came up, of course, to find out what was going on. And the police car, I imagine, was sitting there and the cop called them over and they sort of got down to earnestly explain what they were doing. And you can kind of see the cop thinking about it, and then finally turning to them and saying, "This is great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it." And he let him off, and they continued along their way. And the question is not just that this shows the incredible resilience and strength for different communities, but the big question is, why does it take a crisis for us to collaborate together on common goals? And we think that part of the problem is literally ways that we communicate today. Probably the biggest way that people communicate is through these community meetings. Now, they're very valuable for a lot of things, but I don't think that anyone would particularly describe them as efficient or even constructive. And so I put community meeting into Flickr and got these out just to explain how it works. Typically, a board member will speak, and then someone will have a sort of pointed question, right? And then the powers that be will sort of, try and explain what's going on, and then someone might interrupt in the back, and then this person interrupts this person, right? And then you can't actually even get an edge and word and edgewise, and then this person has a point to make, and then he wants to make a point, and he goes back and forth, and they go back and forth, and eventually, right, this lady shows up. Right? She always shows up. And so the question is, why in this day and age haven't we found a better way to communicate as a community? My company, Local Projects, was asked by Carol Coletta and a group called CEOs for Cities, an urban think tank, to reimagine public participation for the 21st century. And so we did that by thinking about crowdsourcing, about all the different ideas that all of us have on ways to make our city better. And the key is that it looks at cities not as a place of scarce resources that need to be fought over, but it looks at cities as a place of shared goals, the types of things that all of us have in common, the things that, honestly, we live in cities to share. Right? We all want better opportunities. We'd love to have a safer city. We'd love if transportation went a little faster. That would be terrific. More opportunities, better jobs, better schools. Right? And so we ended up, through funding from Rockefeller and the Knight Foundation, launching Change by Us in New York City. And so on Earth Day, Mayor Bloomberg stood in front of a podium, and as part of Plan NYC, we launched a platform essentially to gather together ideas about sustainability. And the key is, Plan NYC is a really incredibly ambitious program by the City of New York. It has amazing goals, and it really is a prime example of the types of things that top-down institutions can deliver, right? The brownfields, cleaning them up, water supply infrastructure, these are the types of things that really we need government for and that only government can provide. But if you look at the list of goals, there's actually a bunch of stuff on here that government can't do. Right, so if you see solid waste, divert 75% of our solid waste from landfills, that would be an incredible win in terms of sustainability, also in terms of cost savings. And honestly, that's nothing that the city can do. That's something that we need to do, that we collectively need to do. And so we started thinking about the city as a platform. So the government, foundations, corporate philanthropy, these powerful groups need to gather together with all of us for these common goals. All these ideas about creating waves are really coming to fruition here in Change by Us, because each of us have an idea in terms of how to make our city better. And so what Change by Us is doing is giving a platform for people to put in individual ideas, and that creates visibility to the city. The key is, once you put in the idea itself, you can actually locate it in a specific spot in the city, and we have an algorithm that's going to connect you with an existing project. And if an existing project doesn't exist, that's where you come in, and you can start your own project. So we had a round of mini grants in the fall, a small investment by Rockefeller, $15,000, powered 19 different projects, 600 volunteers, 3,800 hours of service, 9,300 pounds of compost was diverted from the city system. This is the overall project in terms of the momentum that's being built. And these are the projects themselves. This is what change looks like. This is painting different composting barrels. This is the compost centers themselves. This is a community garden that's being refurbished with the funds. This is a community organizing event. And you can see, I wish we had the soundtrack, the music that's playing in the background. This is what change looks like. This is neighbor to neighbor, talking about composting, talking about the environment, talking about making our neighborhoods better. And increasingly, this is what change looks like, right? This is people talking to people in terms of how to change things. We have big hopes for Change by Us. We're looking to partner with some type of a national bank maybe, or a national coffee group that could allow each individual local branch to truly be local and to be partnering with individual groups in those neighborhoods. Imagine signing on to wireless and being able to vote for any of these individual projects, or maybe a cup of coffee to vote, and most importantly, connecting people with the actual projects themselves through volunteering in the space. Now we have another round of mini grants that's happening in New York City. Just this spring, by April 23rd, we'll be picking new winners. So if anyone here today has a great idea or is part of a group, I really encourage you to apply. If you're in Philadelphia, Change by Us launched there a couple months ago. We have rounds of mini grants happening this spring. If you're in any of the cities across America, we've talked to 24 or around the world about launching Change by Us. We hope to bring Change by Us to you soon enough. And if you're right here and thinking about what's the closest project to Harlem, the grant winner in the fall that was the closest was Brook Park Chickens. And this is one of my favorites because there's this incredible idea about how to educate and to partner with communities. So they used just $700 to create the system, and they had chicken deputies. So these are students who are actually working with these chickens. And just looking at the photographs, I mean, you figure they have this incredibly idyllic life, right? This is from Mott Haven in the Bronx. Here are some of those chicken deputies themselves. They had an amazing amount of press coverage. So it's really able to amplify these individual actions to a much, much wider audience. And when you think about the individual lives that were touched, right, you think about the ways in which this person was able to be touched by this project, I think that's what change looks like. And you take her experience, you multiply it by the hundreds of projects that are already on Change by Us, and the thousands of volunteers, and the tens and thousands of volunteer hours, and all the people that they've been telling about the work that they're doing, I think that's what change looks like. Thank you very much.